Hello and welcome to India First, your fortnightly window to the world of strategic affairs, defense and foreign policy. I am Nitin Gokhale. Today we are discussing the aftermath of the Uri attack first, and then of course the surgical strikes carried out by Indian special forces across the line of control in the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. What are India's options and what should India expect? Should it expect a blowback from Pakistan? Would this escalate into something more serious? Or would Pakistan keep quiet and then move on as things would get normalized? To discuss all that, we have a distinguished panel with us, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, recently retired former DGMO, the Director General Military Operations, and of course a special forces officer who has served, of course, in various theatres and also taken part in the Maldives operation way back in 1987. And of course, Mr. Vivek Karju, a former diplomat who has dealt with Pakistan extensively, both in the ministry and then of course also as the ambassador in Afghanistan. If I can start with you, General Bhatia. You know, there is this question which has been repeatedly raised in the last 3 or 4 days after the surgical strikes were carried out and made public, that if India has carried out such actions across the line of control earlier, and there have been reports about it, and which I am sure many people know. What is it that was different from those attacks and this surgical strike that India has now gone and acknowledged and declared it to the world?
See, earlier India never carried out any strikes across. These are very, very local actions. You know, when the infiltration takes place, now the line of control is not a defined sort of a thing. You cannot say this is my territory, this is, though we know where it is exactly. But when you are in a firefight and you may have gone a few meters, 100 meters or 200 meters inside, they are a very local level. It is not the way India has gone in this time. This surgical strikes are a class apart. I would give them 10 out of 10. It's perfect. Firstly, it is at the national level. Right. It's at the strategic level. It's at the operational level. At the tactical level. Right. What India has done is demonstrated a resolve. Right. A strategic resolve. It has demonstrated a political military will. It has come as both a punitive operation, post the Uri, where we had 18 martyrs, now 20 martyrs, and also preemptive strikes, where the the terrorists were waiting to infiltrate into our territories, into J&K and maybe even further beyond, to create more terror. So, and look at the targets we selected. I think we must compliment the Chief of the Army Staff, General Swag, and the Indian Army for selecting the targets. What apt targets? Starting from Bimba in the south of Pir Panjal, going to Tattapani, Hot Spring as we call it, south of Pir Panjal, then north of Pir Panjal, Lipa Valley, Kale. So 4 targets selected over a period, over about 300 kilometers.
The arc.
The arc. So that gives an indication of our capabilities to strike where and when we want.
Right.
And the depth of the targets is just about, at the launch pads. Right. So it does not lead to escalation. Okay. So this is beautifully orchestrated. Hats off to the people who orchestrated this right from the top, and the people who actually executed it. Right. It's a very difficult operation. 28, 29 night was a day minus, just 1 day prior to the no moon phase. Right. To insert, to execute, and to extricate. I think these are very delicate
and
operations.
Without any casualty.
Without any casualties. That's the best part. That's right. And had anything gone wrong, it would have been a national, international embarrassment. Right. So this is the scale we're talking about. There's no comparisons. One is the scale at the at the absolutely national level with international ramifications. One is a very local level when you are chasing, when you're in a firefight and you may have just strayed across or gone across, even deliberately gone across maybe. But as the Indian Army, we're a professional, disciplined army. We normally do not do things which are not as per our policy. So these are very well orchestrated facts.
So would it be right to say that this was a tactical operation with strategic ramifications and which actually has created a buzz which was not there, and India has actually crossed a Lakshman Rekha in the mind also?
Oh, I don't know how to put it across. Actually, I would not say that, to a tactical operation, strategic ramifications is a very commonly used word. This is a little more than that. Okay. Why it's more than that is because, firstly, we have shown a strategic resolve. We have also exercised strategic restraint in selection of the targets.
Okay.
Okay.
You mean
Now,
it could have been
you could have done something more.
Right.
But look at the targets are exceedingly well selected.
Right.
It will not lead to escalation. That is one. It has hit where it hurts. Two. Pakistan is a dilemma. It cannot accept that strikes have taken place, and it cannot ignore that strikes have taken place.
Right.
So if you look at the whole package, I think it is 10 out of 10. Everything is perfect.
Right, great. Mr. Karju, you've dealt with Pakistan extensively. What is your view on this? I mean, how have we changed the discourse, India-Pakistan discourse? Have we changed the discourse with this strike?
I think we are in the process of changing the discourse.
Okay.
Let me try to put it in perspective,
Sure.
as I see it.
Sure.
Ever since 1990, my memory is right, when Sahibzada Yaqub Khan had come here,
Sure.
and we know his role in Pakistani affairs,
Yes.
and in a meeting with Mr. Gujral, who was then our foreign minister,
Right.
had warned that Pakistan had nuclear weapons, and therefore in the wake of what was happening in Jammu and Kashmir,
Yes.
India should not think of using conventional forces because things may escalate.
Right.
The Pakistanis had projected to the international community and to India as well
Yeah.
that the use of conventional forces against a terrorist attack was very, very dangerous.
Okay.
And many Indian strategic thinkers and many in the world had kind of accepted this proposition. Certainly they had pondered over it very deeply.
Right.
So the result was that while the world used to praise our self-restraint, we ourselves started thinking that Pakistani terror was not a strategic challenge to India, but it was relegated to what I call a question of political management.
Okay.
And if you see literature
Yeah.
thereafter,
Correct.
that is the direction in which it has gone.
True.
Now, we were in a quandary because on the one hand, we did not develop the wherewithal to have offensive limited war capabilities.
Sure.
And I don't mean terrorism by
Not
that.
at all.
I don't mean
Yes.
low-level military operations.
No.
But limited war capabilities can be a whole range of
course.
things,
Of course.
diplomatic, economic, social,
Sure.
political,
Yeah.
all kinds of
Right.
things, and the use of force
Use
where
of
it
force.
is needed.
Yeah.
We didn't do that, and we did not use
Our military.
our own conventional
Capability.
capability.
Sure.
So the result was paralysis.
Absolutely. And we constantly kept taking the blows.
Yes, and had a doctrine to back it that it was not a strategic
Not a
challenge.
strategic
India
challenge.
could absorb all this.
That's right.
Now this has challenged that Pakistani
Assumption.
assumption.
Right.
So it has come as a shock
Absolutely.
to them. It has also demonstrated to the world that India's strategic patience is not unlimited.
That's true.
So that is a significance.
Yes.
Now, this for me means that while we have cracked this doctrine which the Pakistanis
Had imposed on us.
had imposed on us and on the and international community,
Yeah.
we not totally shattered it. Let's not be thinking that we've shattered it
Sure.
altogether. Because it hasn't been probed to its ultimate limit, and it hopefully will never be probed to the
Hopefully
ultimate
not.
limit.
Yes.
Which makes me conclude also
Sure.
that while we've done this, and it is very good, and Mr. Modi and his government need to be congratulated for it,
Sure.
yet we have to develop a low intensity counter where we indicate to the Pakistanis that we are having a comprehensive rethink of the very foundations of our Pakistan policy,
Right.
which was based on the hope that your negativity towards us will one day get transformed.
True.
And you would want, as we want, cooperative and friendly ties between the two countries.
True.
So that is
That
the
is
precise point as I see it
Yes.
at the moment.
Right.
And it is in that context that you can place various steps.
Sure.
At the same time, to my mind, if all this does not amount to something being knit together,
So
it will be
need
a bit of a
different steps.
waste. It will be a different waste. It needs to be woven into a conceptual framework,
It
a new
cannot be a
conceptual.
one-off, or it cannot be
Yeah,
isolated.
these steps can't be isolated. The raising of the Indus waters,
Right.
the raising of the MFN,
That's
the
right.
diplomatic offensive on SARC,
Exactly.
right? The use of a strategic strike,
Sure.
calling for Baluchistan in the human rights context.
Yes.
All this now has to be knit together to see where are we and what are we really doing.
Right. And so, General Bhatia, this as a former soldier, once a soldier, always a soldier.
Absolutely.
How do you see this sort of playing out in the minds of the serving soldiers? Does this give them a huge confidence? Because, you know, there was this feeling that Indian Army had become very defensive because of the political clearances not coming in for the offensive action. Do you think this will also lead to a bit of a morale booster kind of a thing?
Oh, definitely. You know, Indian Army is, you know, is by far one of the most battle-hardened combat-rich armies in the world.
Sure.
We've been battling insurgencies and terrorist operations.
Sure.
However, there was always a sort of a feeling that we are not, you know, we got much more capabilities and capacities, and Pakistan comes and keeps hitting us, and we do not actually respond the way we should respond.
Right.
So this is a great model booster. I think every Indian has felt pride in the strikes.
Yes.
Every soldier is very, you know, very proud about it,
Right.
and it has lifted the morale of the army.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very good thing that has happened,
Right.
and it will also give us a mindset now that next time I may be asked to do it.
Correct.
So I'll be better prepared. Right now, we always thought that, it may happen, may not happen, and I don't think we'll get the political clearances, and we'll not get the political backing.
Yes.
So I think that has changed.
Correct.
You know, this is a defining sort of a moment where a decision is taken to give the army the you know, the go-ahead to go and do certain things and give a signal to the Pakistani army that, look, you cannot keep continuing to beat us. We will come and hit you where we want to hit you.
Sure. And as somebody who's served in the parachute regiment, and of course and you were the DGMO at you know, for a considerable period, the use of special forces or even the para forces has been a slightly low-key kind of a thing in the Indian context, although we have done Maldives and you personally you know, participated in it. But do you think now we also should think of using special forces a little more often?
Definitely, special forces are the game changers. You know, whenever the nation plays, the special forces play, or when the special forces play, the nation has to play.
Right.
It cannot be at the tactical level or operational level. It is mostly used at strategic level.
Right.
We have not exploited fully. There is much more which needs to be done.
Right.
Our special forces have to be, you know, structured more properly. What I mean is that if you're going to use the special forces, and the special forces give you, you know, high dividends, high payoffs,
Right.
and they're highly trained, motivated troops.
Yeah.
And special operations are very effective tools of the military diplomacy also. It also gives an indication of your, you know, intent, your capacity to get an intent, and also threat in being.
Right.
It's everywhere. So I think what we need to do is get the structures right, you know,
Yeah.
get a special operations command which has been talked about but not come through, so that you have the intelligence which is joined, you have the planning which is joined, you have the coordination out there, you have the training, the logistics, and of course the operations at the end.
Right.
And also you have, you know, a say, or not exactly a say, but a coordination at the level of the apex level, at the decision-making level.
Right.
So they know what your capacities are. They have the confidence in you to use them. We've not been exploited fully. You're right out there.
Because I think in the last 1 year or so, two special forces operations have taken place, one in the east and one last week in the west. But we'll talk more about what are India's options going forward and how should India expect Pakistan to react. It is known to be unpredictable, but do we now have a fix on how Pakistan reacts? We'll talk about all that just after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
प्रकाश सूर्या जीवन भर साथ का वादा दमदार मजबूती की मिसाल प्रकाश सूर्या GI पाइप्स चले सालों साल
प्रिया दीदी नमस्ते, आप यहाँ राशन खरीदने आई हैं?
आइए, मैं जहाँ से लेती हूँ ना वहाँ चलिए, वहाँ सामान भी सस्ता मिलेगा।
मेरे लिए सुरक्षा, साफ सफाई और क्वालिटी सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है। आपको ये देखना चाहिए कि जो चीजें आप खरीद रही हैं, उन्हें कैसे रखा गया है, उन पे धूल मिट्टी पड़ रही है, क्या उनकी सामग्री ताज़ा होती है, क्या इस्तेमाल किया गया पानी पीने लायक है। अपनों की सेहत का ख्याल रखने के लिए हमें सुरक्षा, स्वच्छता और क्वालिटी पर जोर देना चाहिए।
वायर खरीदना है बड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग, सेफ्टी चुनूं या करूं सेविंग।
अरे सर जी दोनों मिलेंगे, काय को माथा फोड़िंग। चूज आर का बेल्ट डू दी अकलमंद थिंग। अजी इसमें है यूसीटी टेक्नोलॉजी,
सेफ्टी है वर्ल्ड क्लास तो सब टेंशन फ्री। अब वेले हुए हम, नो मोर डिंग डोंग डिंग।
सो चूज आर का बेल्ट डू दी अकलमंद थिंग। चूज आर का बेल्ट डू दी अकलमंद थिंग।
पढ़ने लिखने खेलने के दिन मजदूरी में गवाए, शाम को लौटो तो बापू पूछे कितने पैसे कमाए। कितना अच्छा होता जो मैं स्कूल जाता, लिखता, पढ़ता, लौटता तो बापू पूछता बोलो क्या सीख कर आए।
आपके बच्चों की आंखों में एक सपना है जिसे शिक्षा ही सच कर सकती है। मजदूरी नहीं, 14 वर्ष से कम उम्र में बाल श्रम करवाना कानूनन अपराध है।
श्रीमान श्रीमती ने किया अपना घर बुक, मनाई खुशियाँ, बांटी मिठाइयाँ, दिन महीने हुए, महीने बने साल, पर कंस्ट्रक्शन ना आगे बढ़ा। जैसे जैसे पोजीशन आगे बढ़ता गया, दिल उतनी ही तेजी से धड़कता गया। बिल्डर से की बात तो जवाब वही गोलमाल, पर श्रीमान श्रीमती ने हार ना मानी, रास्ता ढूंढा, पहुँचे कंज्यूमर कोर्ट। न्याय तो मिला, हर जाना भी मिला और बिल्डर को करारा सबक मिला। उपभोक्ता मामले विभाग, भारत सरकार एवं एसएचएम द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
रोशनी का सिर्फ एक ही नाम, सूर्य। सूर्य एलईडी, खर्चा कम, चले ज्यादा, घर घर रोशनी का वादा। सूर्य।
Welcome back. We are discussing the post-surgical strike developments and of course how Pakistan may react and what are India's options going forward. Mr. Karju, you said that we are just about to sort of beginning to change the discourse. So to change the discourse, and you spoke very briefly about how they should be woven together. What do you think Pakistan would do as a first step they should be looking at as an option, and how prepared should we be?
Look, I think their long-term objective would be the restoration of their doctrine, because it has served them extremely well.
Yes.
Once this is removed, the doctrine, then the pursuit of low-intensity war becomes difficult, because there will be Indian responses, and those don't have to be on every case,
not necessarily,
but as and when you want.
Yes, of course.
Now, how will they do that? At the moment, they are in a bit of a fix,
right?
Because they haven't acknowledged that there was
exactly
that there were these surgical strikes. If anything, they've tried to repudiate it by taking journalists there.
A disinformation campaign has begun, really.
That there's nothing there, have a look, villagers being brought, all the rest, all the charade is being played this game. So, as of now, I think the only thing that they can do is to provoke India further.
Right.
And then to try to project to the world that India has not responded across the line. And therefore, what had happened, what the Indians claimed was simply untrue. Simply untrue. Now, for that purpose, what can they do? I think the danger of a large attack, terrorist attack, is there, except that they know that if they indulge in that, it will attract international opprobrium.
And further isolate them.
Well, you see, the word isolation has different connotations. It will make them come under greater pressure. The word isolation, I think, is a misleading word, because in the modern day and age, no country is truly isolated.
True.
Because some business has to be done with that country. India with Pakistan has diplomatic missions. You have humanitarian concerns which need, for the addressing of which authorities have to be in contact. There are other things.
Yeah, sure.
So,
I agree. So,
but it is pressure. That
pressure.
Yeah. Now they will come under much greater pressure. On the other hand, I think the kind of attack that we've seen in Baramulla, these probes will continue. And the Indian Army has done well to prevent these terrorists from really succeeding in their designs. I think General Saab would know much more, but anyone at the perimeter is always vulnerable.
Always vulnerable.
It is common sense that he is vulnerable, especially as the element of surprise is with the perpetrator. But once that is discounted, then of course we've done well to hold it, and this will have to be fortified. The defences will have to be fortified.
No, I mean, we were just actually, I didn't want to talk too much about, and let's not talk too much about this Baramulla attack because it keeps happening. But do you think this was just a standoff fire and they just wanted to probe, or was it a little more, they activated their sleeper cells?
No, it is a standoff attack. In two places they just fired and then they just went away. Very sad that one of the BSI John died. But it is a standoff attack, and these would be resident terrorists. It couldn't be
couldn't have come from across.
They couldn't have infiltrated right now, given the situation along the line of control. But Pakistan will continue to fuel
the insurgency.
And right now we are into October, so it's got a month and a half. For the last bit before the winter sets in.
That's right.
It has lost the momentum which it had gained in the month of July, August.
That's right.
That is there. And then the festive season is coming.
Exactly.
So I think it's not only the army, it is the police and the agencies internally, and even our public, which has to be very careful. They may try and carry out a high visibility attack in one of the metros, in one of the cities. They may try to carry out some attacks along our more vulnerable or soft bellies along the border area with the admin installation of the army or the air force for that matter.
That's right.
So it is not that this attack would say, okay, Pakistan will give out state policy of executing terror attacks. That will not happen.
That will not.
That
will not happen. About quarter century that they've been using
26 years. 26 years. December of '89, and let's say 2 more
27 years actually.
Yeah, 27 years, a long time. And I think it's not going to go away. But the fact is, we have raised the costs, we have raised the bar, and Pakistan will not be emboldened as it was emboldened earlier. It cannot carry out attacks in impunity as it was doing earlier. But, the terror camps have moved away. There are 42 of these terror camps, about 4 or 5 of them were dormant, the others were active. They have to move them away to safer places, deeper places. So, it's a state policy. Policy will not change. But the cost of that has gone up. So when the costs go up, the chances of their success also recedes that much. But I think we'll have to be careful for the next, till the
about a month
and a half, till the festive season, because the high visibility attack could be there.
Is a possibility.
Is a major possibility.
Yes, you're right. But Mr. Kaju, moving away from the military options and this thing, we have done diplomatically quite well. If you see, look at the SARC, how we have
exceedingly well.
Exceedingly well. Okay. As a diplomat, if you're saying that, I'm glad you're doing that. What about the Indus Waters Treaty? I mean, we have to only revisit it. The moment we said this, there was, people started sweating in Pakistan. Some of the ministers and all that saying that if you do that, we'll go to the UN, we will, sort of retaliate, all that. What is your view on that?
Look, waters is a very, very sensitive subject in Pakistan. If you see the literature of the 1950s, it makes it evident that one of the things that Pakistan used to charge India with was bad intentions on water. In the sense that India would try to ensure that water doesn't flow to Pakistan. Now all that was highly exaggerated, but there it was. And one of the reasons why the Indus Waters Treaty was entered into, even though it was highly favorable to Pakistan and almost one-sided, was to give the Pakistanis an assurance that we will not tinker around with water, and here is a treaty. And the hope that the treaty was premised on, that their negative, that they'll give them greater confidence, therefore there won't be so
good neighborly conduct.
Exactly. All that has never come about. So now what are we saying? We are saying that, look, all that treaties are dependent on good faith.
And good, both parties actually be doing it in good faith.
In good faith. That the entire spectrum of the relationship has to be seen.
That's right.
Now, that is making them extremely worried. Because there is one other fact. In recent years, what the Pakistanis were asking for, though not officially,
Right.
but if you see in their civil society circles, in their think tank circuit,
Right.
was not only the Indus Waters Treaty, but Indus Waters Treaty Plus. They wanted some kind of a role in the watershed management in India, in the waters management in India, on the ground that, look, all this comes to us, so if you muck around with it, it won't come to us.
Sure.
So all this is making them extremely nervous that India may, for one, use the treaty waters to the fullest extent.
Yes.
And two, that if we persist with our present policy, on waters will India take a hard look.
Right.
That is making them a little nervous.
I think this is a note on which we could perhaps have to end, because we have run completely out of time. But as both of you will perhaps agree that it's advantage India at the moment, but it needs to be pressed home as we go along. So India needs to be careful, it needs to be on guard, and also keep doing the necessary things, the diplomatic, political, military, to keep Pakistan under pressure, so that they don't use the proxy war as a state policy as they have been using for the last 27 years at least. On that note, thank you very much to both my panelists, and goodbye. We'll see you again in a fortnight's time.